In the frozen forests of Finland, where silence could mean survival or death, one man became a legend during the Winter War. Hidden beneath layers of snow, unseen and almost mythical, he moved with patience, precision, and deadly calm. Soviet soldiers feared the whisper of his presence. They gave him a name that echoed through the icy battlefield: White Death. That man was Simo Häyhä, alone in sub-zero temperatures, armed with nothing but skill and discipline. He faced overwhelming numbers. But how did one soldier hold back thousands and become one of the most feared snipers in history? Before we continue, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and support our history community. And tell us in the comments, in 1939, tensions between Finland and the Soviet Union erupted into open war. The conflict would later be known as the Winter War, a brutal struggle fought in extreme cold and unforgiving terrain. The Soviet Union entered the war with a massive advantage. Thousands of troops, heavy equipment, and armored units pushed toward Finnish territory. On paper, the outcome seemed predictable. Finland was smaller, outnumbered, and under-equipped. But the Finnish defenders had one powerful advantage: knowledge of their land. Dense forests, deep snow, and freezing temperatures turned the battlefield into a natural defense system. Movement was slow, visibility was limited, and survival depended on adapting to the environment. This is where Simo Häyhä stood apart. A quiet farmer before the war, he was already an expert marksman. Years of hunting in the Finnish wilderness had trained his eyes, his patience, and his ability to remain completely still for long periods. When the war began, he joined the Finnish army and was deployed to the front lines. Unlike many snipers, he chose to use iron sights instead of a scope. This reduced the chance of light reflecting from glass, which could reveal his position. He also packed snow in front of his rifle to stabilize his shots. And most importantly, he used the environment to disappear. Dressed in white camouflage, he blended perfectly into the snowy landscape. Soviet soldiers often had no idea he was there until it was too late. His method was simple: wait, observe, strike. And in the silent forests of Finland, that method would soon turn one soldier into a legend. As the Winter War intensified, the frozen forests became a battlefield unlike any other. Temperatures dropped to extreme lows, sometimes reaching levels where even basic movement became difficult. Weapons could freeze. Breathing created visible vapor. Every sound carried through the still air. But for Simo Häyhä, these harsh conditions were not a weakness. They were an advantage. He understood the terrain better than most. Instead of moving constantly, he chose his positions carefully. Often, he would remain completely still for hours, waiting for the right moment. His white camouflage blended perfectly with the snow, making him nearly invisible even at close range. Soviet patrols moving through the forests faced constant uncertainty. They knew someone was watching, but they couldn't see where. Häyhä's approach was based on patience and precision. He did not rush his shots. Each movement was controlled, each decision calculated. When he fired, it was with clear intent. This created a psychological effect. Soldiers began to fear open ground. Even stepping into a clearing felt dangerous. The idea that a hidden sniper could be observing them at any moment affected how they moved and operated. In response, Soviet forces increased patrols and searched for his position. But the forest remained silent. and the White Death remained unseen. As the Winter War continued, efforts to locate Simo Häyhä intensified. Soviet units began using counter-sniper teams, increased reconnaissance, and even artillery fire directed into suspected hiding areas. Entire sections of forest were shelled in attempts to eliminate a threat they could barely see. But Häyhä adapted. He avoided predictable patterns and frequently changed positions after taking shots. Instead of relying on one location, he treated the battlefield like a shifting puzzle, always staying one step ahead. His discipline remained his greatest strength. He controlled his breathing to avoid visible vapor in the freezing air. He minimized movement to prevent detection. Even the smallest details were carefully managed. Despite the growing danger, his effectiveness did not decrease. Day after day, reports continued to spread among Soviet troops. The unseen sniper was still active. The fear surrounding him only grew stronger. For soldiers moving through the forests, tension became constant. Every tree could hide danger. Every shadow could conceal a threat. The psychological pressure began to affect decision-making. Patrols moved more cautiously. Operations slowed. Confidence weakened. Yet the battlefield was becoming more dangerous for Häyhä as well. The increased attention meant that every shot carried greater risk. Enemy forces were closing in, determined to end the threat once and for all. And soon, a single moment would change everything. As the Winter War neared its final phase, the danger surrounding Simo Häyhä reached its peak. Soviet forces had intensified their efforts, using everything from counter-snipers to heavy bombardment in an attempt to eliminate the elusive marksman. Then, during one intense engagement, Häyhä was seriously wounded by enemy fire. The impact was severe. He was evacuated from the battlefield and lost consciousness, leaving behind the frozen forests where he had built his reputation. For many soldiers, such an injury would have ended their story. But Häyhä survived. When he eventually regained consciousness days later, the war itself was coming to an end. The conflict that had tested entire armies had also created one of the most remarkable stories of individual endurance and skill. Throughout the war, Häyhä had demonstrated what discipline, patience, and understanding of terrain could achieve, even against overwhelming numbers. His legacy was not built on dramatic moments alone, but on consistency, on control, on precision. Today, he is remembered as one of the most effective snipers in history. The name White Death remains a powerful symbol of how one individual, using skill and strategy, can leave a lasting mark on history. Because sometimes, even in the largest conflicts, a single soldier can change the way war is remembered.